Greetings, everyone. I'm so happy to have this opportunity to show you Green Med Info and the ways that we could support Sprouts in becoming a national leader in sharing the food as medicine advocacy in a way that would have a huge impact. The thing is that I started out my career as a natural products expert, if you will. I was a manager and educator of a health food store chain in Southwest Florida, and we had a farmers market mentality. There was a CSA, we had a juice bar, and I spoke with thousands of customers every month who were looking for evidence-based alternatives to the standard of care. Now, of course, as natural products, health food store folks, we're not allowed to, treat, prevent, diagnose, cure disease. Of course, we're just advocates of health and we love providing the best products. That said, there's a real place for the public learning about the incredible volume of research that exists that proves that natural approaches to health, which include, grandmother's advice to you to eat your broccoli, basically food as medicine, should be part of the standard of care. That standard of care is actually largely based on what people choose to put in their grocery cart. And how do they make that choice? Well, without the evidence showing that, for example, echinacea can actually help with colds, or that turmeric is one of the best ways to address metabolic syndrome, especially type 2 diabetes, how can they make an informed choice? They're not going to go to their doctor who has little training and certainly doesn't have access to the millions of studies, and all the time needed to go through them to share with them the alternatives that they should have access to. So that's why I created Green Med Info within the heart of a natural, store existence. I was the manager and educator for 10 years. And what I would do is customers would come in, they'd say, hey, is there any research really to support what Dr. Oz just talked about? Is coconut oil really good for the brain? I'd go in, look at the journals, and to my incredible surprise, I would find studies showing that, for example, coconut is effective for cognition and memory with just one dose. So Green Med Info was a passion project that over the course of, 20 years, and then 10 years before that, just being with customers and helping them, that led to its present incarnation. So let me show you an example. This is the coconut oil page. We have 103 conditions that have been studied in the biomedical literature from the National Library of Medicine, where I indexed all the studies I could find relevant to its applications to health. Now, we're not making structure function claims because, as you know, you cannot prevent, cure, diagnose, or treat a disease with food or supplements. It has to be FDA approved. But what we are doing is we're providing the public access to the studies that can speak for themselves. So when you look at the 109 abstracts, you'll see each one goes back to the original citation location on the National Library of Medicine's PubMed. And you can click that link there and it'll go right back to the treasure house of research. I think it's almost 40 million studies that the taxpayers, your customers, paid for and should have access to. But who has 20 years or 20 years plus to go dive into that ocean of data to pull up the clinical pearls? Very few people. I just happen to have an obsession when it comes to natural health because my own personal story, which I wrote about in Regenerate, the book, and of course in the masterclass Regenerate Yourself, which we're making freely available to you and your customers, is that essentially I had to learn how to use food and mindset and exercise to take back control of my own health. And once I learned how to do that and realized that there was this incredible, almost infinite source of information about natural health, that I had to share it with the world. That was my mission, and that's what I've dedicated myself to. And this database doesn't just have research on, for example, let me click the 13 studies, as I said, on coconut oil and Alzheimer's disease. It has research, not only, these are 13 studies, by the way, showing coconut oil does actually prevent, in some cases, reverse symptoms of Alzheimer's disease. That's a big deal because there's been something like 1,000 clinical studies so far that have been conducted on drugs for Alzheimer's, and not a single one has shown it prevents the acceleration or decline of that patient from that condition. Whereas something as simple as a tablespoon of coconut oil can almost immediately affect cognition based on the research that we found in the Library of Medicine's database. Now, this is a huge database we have here. If you go to GreenMed Info, and what we're suggesting is we can create a version for you and your customers. You have 10,000 health topics. That's 10,000. I know. I spent a lot of time. Let me show you the turmeric page, okay? This took me about 8 months, one page on my website. And I think at this point we have hundreds of thousands of pages. It's taking a moment to load because you'll see there's a lot of research there. In fact, after spending all this time on turmeric, I was shocked to find that there are over 900 conditions that have been researched that could benefit from turmeric. Now, this is, of course, across cell studies, animal studies, preclinical, clinical, just the whole gamut. But what happens, of course, is that the only thing that the FDA drug approval process allows at present is trials that require billions of dollars of investment. And the only way that can be feasible financially is if there is a patent on that substance. And the only way the substance could be patented if it's synthetic. And that's unfortunately what goes so wrong because synthetic chemicals are not meant for natural bodies. Now, they do work in emergency medicine, and of course, they have a role, but not when it comes to most chronic disease, which is, of course, why America is so excited about making America healthy again and looking at the root causes of conditions and removing them. So here we go. We have turmeric. We have 4,386 studies. When I started this project, there were about 10,000 studies on the topic. Today, there's far more. So what we have here is a database that enables you to look at all the research. And on the right, you have translational articles. Many of them are easy for your customers to understand. How does turmeric work in the brain? What are some of the ways to use it in your diet? What is the history behind this incredible herb that goes back thousands of years? And this is just one page on our site. Now, look at this too. 299 distinct pharmacological actions, ways in which this herb has been shown to benefit whatever the subject is. If it's an animal, it's a cell, a human. It's anti-inflammatory, it's neuroprotective, it has, analgesic properties, pain-killing properties. This is the basis of GreenMed Info. Now, to give you a snapshot of how much research we have collected that could be of use to you and your customers, let me just show you this. This is our dashboard, which we set up for professional users, so they don't have to go through the tens of thousands of pages to get a sense of the total applicable information relevant to everyday people. And that means we're looking at all the databases that we collate research on, because it's not just on herbs. We also have a disease database, which is also going to show you that at present, here we go, we have 3,000 diseases that we've indexed research on. In fact, if you go to the cancer database, there's over 14,000 studies. And that's one of my specialties as an author. I've written 2 books that focus largely on cancer, understanding what causes it, and of course, understanding ways to remove it from your system if you have been diagnosed. So this is one of the ways that we can leverage the database, is looking at various conditions that have been researched. And cancer is top of the list, believe it or not, for natural interventions. You have therapeutic substances, 1,689 different substances. So if you're looking at a product in the store and there's blueberries, there's flaxseed, there's coconut milk, you'll see all the research on how it literally addresses some of the root cause issues connected to many of the chronic disease symptoms people are facing. That's one of my major points in my masterclass in my book, which is that if you look at conditions like cancer, it's not a deficiency of chemotherapy and radiation that causes cancer, but you could look at it from the so-called nutrigenomic lens, which is we're missing certain key forms of biologically active information that are in foods that we have had in our traditional diets now since time immemorial. Look at Jordan Rubin's book, The Biblio Diet. That's a great example. Thousands of years of eating certain foods, berries and root vegetables and certain herbs. These are missing from the diet. And it's not just missing antioxidants. It's missing informational compounds. They're called microRNAs. And this is something I go deeper into and I love sharing, which would help you to better appreciate that what Sprouts is doing for the world by sourcing locally grown organic food and providing this incredible array of products is they're providing the genetic infrastructure for health and well-being. So it's a whole new revolutionary way of understanding health and well-being and what causes disease and how to eliminate it. And I want Sprouts to be on the forefront of this movement because there's a whole executive branch commission today, thanks to the new HHS leadership, which is the Make America Healthy Again Commission. I'm actually a senior advisor for that entire MAHA community. And I can tell you that there is deep excitement within our own government now for looking at food as information. So this is why, again, Green Med Info and Sprouts are two brands that were made in heaven in terms of actually supporting each other. Now, if you look at this database, at present, we have 1,004 abstracts that have been indexed. Those were indexed by me. Now we have systems that we are deploying now that are going to pull in millions of more abstracts within the next 6 months to a year. So this is only going to get more powerful. Now, let's say you have someone who wants to know about a product you might carry in the lifestyle section. Maybe it's a yoga mat or a foam roller. We have a huge section on evidence-based therapeutic actions, which include yoga and music and acupressure and breastfeeding, and looking at ways to get sunlight exposure. And that's one of the ways that we're supporting this lifestyle brand, because as far as I can see it, going from the, farm to the market, going from the soil to society, we are a lifestyle-based movement. It's not just going ahead and buying a certain amount of organic berries on a Sunday. It's something you try to do regularly. And that is what is so beautiful about this movement, especially given, by the way, that you support local farming, because we believe that our own line, Regenerate, is all about not just healing everybody's microbiome and, of course, their cellular optimization and their mindset from the bottom up, but also the earth itself, because Jordan has been one of the innovators in regeneratively certified and organically certified agriculture, which is basically saying that when you purchase from Sprouts, you purchase from the Regenerate line, you are actually regenerating the planet, the very conditions that make everyone heal and everyone live a beautiful life. And that's why we're so excited to work with you. So we also have a problem section, which include, problems with, let's say, do you know that yoga pants, for example, because of the use of synthetic fabrics, they actually interfere with fertility. We have a huge database on, for example, fluoride toxicity and reasons why people might want to find a fluoride alternative, or why glyphosate-free branding on certain products is actually important, because we have a massive database on glyphosate as an adverse toxicant. So we have pretty much everything covered that you could ever look for when it comes to a customer that's interested in knowing, is there science to support the products that you carry? Is there science to support this massive movement that isn't just taking America by storm, which is ending the chronic disease epidemic, but the entire world? So I'm here to tell you that I am so excited to work with you. I'm happy to provide my services. I've created this website here. Over the past 20 years, we've had billions of content views. We've always chosen not to have advertising on it because we didn't want conflict of interest. We wanted the industry, we wanted leaders like you to take this database and run with it, because in the absence of a conflict of interest, with dedication to informed choice, we believe that this is the way that we capture the health, not only of our families and, of course, of our own bodies, but the country itself. I think that we and America and Sprouts and Green Med Info and Regenerate the line will be a shining example of this new, more beautiful world our hearts know is possible. So thank you for your time and attention, and I am looking forward to working with you in the future.